Hi, how do you set yourself up to make your best art? I've been working on a group of paintings and I've kind of been reminded as I'm going through the process on the importance of a couple of things that really make a huge difference to the final result of your painting. The first is to work in multiples. I always work in like about 5 to 7 paintings at a time. And the reason for this is you often have a good idea, but it needs time to develop. And often the developed idea is better than the initial idea because you've thought about it. It's a more evolved idea. So when you're working on a group of paintings and you're moving from one to the other, you're giving yourself a much longer period of time to finish that work and to work through that idea in a whole range of different paintings and different sizes and things. So you're sort of coming up with different iterations of the same idea. So you're going to really tease out the idea, and it's going to really evolve a lot further than it could if you were just working on one. So that's the first reason why I work in multiples. Just to give myself the time and the opportunity to really develop an idea, whatever that idea might be. I have a prompt sheet actually, which gives you a whole lot of different ideas and different ways of applying media, different ways of interpreting subject matter. There's over 70 different prompts in this prompt sheet, and it's free. I've made it to help people so that you're not stuck for an idea in your painting. So if you would like to download that prompt sheet, look below in the notes and you'll see how you can get hold of it there. And in these paintings, the idea that I'm trying to sort of work on is to get a lot more looser in my paint application, the way I'm applying the paint. So the effects on the surface are a lot more random, and sort of I can allow for bigger accidents to happen, more accidents to happen. And then to sit that next to areas where there is intentional, it's very controlled and intentional. So, shapes like this and things like this, little areas like this where there are things that I have deliberately made a shape, rather than areas like this where I've deliberately let whatever's going to happen when I apply water to the canvas or whatever I do. So I'm really interested in finding that balance and getting much more looser and not so much more tighter, but sitting that real looseness next to the more intentional type of work. Allowing me to explore that over 5 or 7 canvases, I'm going to make so many more discoveries about what I can do there than I would if I just had one or 2. So that's a really good reason why I work in multiples. And following on from that, when I discover something in one painting, I can then apply it to the others. And so, they're always moving forward and building and sort of developing further, which ends up in a much better result. Often I can work on a painting and feel like I've sort of got it to a conclusion. I really like it. I think that it's resolved and it's finished, and I'll put it aside, and then something will happen. By the time I come back, something will happen in the other paintings, or just the fact that I'm developing those other paintings. When I go back to looking at the one that I thought was finished, often when I've looked at it after a few days, having worked on the others, I'll look at it and think, no, I can do more to this. So, it just sort of raises the bar all the time. And in the end, you will have, when I do this, I'll have 5, 6 or 7 paintings that have really pushed themselves right to the edges of where I can take them. This is another really important aspect of giving yourself the best chance to get your best result, is to slow the process down. Don't rush finishing the painting. In fact, if you can adopt a mindset where you're more interested in the discovery along the way than you are in the final result, you'll stay in that process a lot longer than you will if you're, just honed in on getting this painting finished and I wonder what it will look like. I mean, I'm always curious as to what these paintings will end up to be, but I know that if I slow the process down and I'm working on 5 or 7, and having worked on this one will go and sit in the corner of my studio for 3 or 4 days before I get back to it. When I get back to it in 3 or 4 days, I will look at it slightly differently and I'll have a fresher take on it. And that's a really important part of the process, to be really open to taking the painting back. When I teach about the stages of a painting and the different things that you focus on at each stage. And I can be working on this one and thinking that I'm getting close to finishing, but then I'll leave it for a couple of days and come back to it. And if after those few days, having a fresh look at it, I feel like, no, I don't really feel like I want to be at that clarifying stage. I don't want to be finishing it just yet. I want to take it back and get even looser in it. Then I'm much more likely to do that having had a break from it. I'm much more likely to see it with those fresh eyes. And I'll just have more energy for it because I've been working on other things. Sometimes, when you're working on just one painting or just 1 or 2 paintings, you are quite involved in them and you don't have that time in between them, in between working on them when you're sort of alternating one to the other. That give you that freshness and that energy to be able to think, no, let's take another week at this. Let's turn the canvas and see what else that this offers me, rather than just taking it, to the finish line, which if you do that too quickly, you miss out on a lot of sort of discoveries along the way, and ultimately your work just doesn't have that richness, and there won't be the history on the surface of this. I mean, I can look at little sections of this and there's just so much overlapping and so much layering going on that there's just a depth to it that I wouldn't get if I spent a week on this and finished it in a week. The mindset I have when I'm doing my work is I'm really curious to know how good I can get the painting, and that's different from having a mindset of I'm really curious to know what it looks like when it's finished. If I want to get this painting really, really good, I have to be with it. I have to be in it for the long haul. I have to be ready, willing to take time over it. If I just want to finish it, I can finish it, within a week. But if I want to see how good it can get, I really have to stay in the process and allow that process to take some time. And the best way to do that is to have a group of paintings that you're working on together, that you're alternating one to the other, and you don't allow them to get out of sync. Don't try and don't try and finish one and then go back to the others. I always try and keep them all at the same level, so that when I finish them, I'll finish all of them at the same time. And often actually there'll be one that I don't finish, and I will leave that to be included into the next group of paintings, just so that I don't work on one painting at a time. Anyway, I think those 2 process nuggets, work in multiples and allow time, absolutely pivotal to creating your best work. And that's, I think, what we're all wanting to do. So I hope that helps.